Good afternoon. Thank everybody for being here today. I hereby call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this time, we will have our invocation led today by Reverend Anthony Booker, Senior Pastor of the Broadway Baptist Church, after which we would like to ask Mr. Mitchell, our Executive Director of the Augusta Richmond County Library, to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please stand?
May we bow? Our God, our Father, the one who declared and everything was, is, and shall be, the giver of every good and perfect gift, the sustainer of all things, the establisher of government. In fact, your word says, God, that a government sits upon your shoulders. Father, we open this session this day, first coming before you because everything belongs to you. In fact, your word says, God, that the earth belongs to you and everything therein. Father, we thank you, Father, for this privilege of gathering. We bless your name, God, for every gift, God, every ability, God, every opportunity, the knowledge that you have afforded each of us. God, we come today blessing your name. In fact, you say that where two or three are gathered, God, that you're right there. So, God, thank you for meeting us here. In fact, thank you for being here before we arrived. So, Father, we invoke your presence as always. We pray, God, that your will might be done. God, transition our hearts and our minds. God, that we might only accomplish your will. God, that we might set aside our own individual desires and that your will might be fulfilled. I pray, God, in Jesus' name, God, to reveal every hindrance, God, every work of evil, and God, that your glory might manifest itself. Bless us now in this moment of sharing. Every presenter, God bless our mayor, God bless these commissioners, and God, all those who work with them. Give them strength, knowledge, and power. Now in Jesus' name we ask and pray together, and we say amen.
Amen. Mr. Mitchell,
To the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Yeah, he was trying to get here. Yeah. Reverend Booker, God's scripture encourages us to pray for one another and that they are precious to him, and his ears are open to our prayers. Thank you for coming once again to petition God on our behalf in our meeting chamber. There's no meeting like a real prayer meeting. May you be blessed in peace and love for your kindness shown toward us today. Thank you. By these presents be it known, Anthony Booker, Senior Pastor, Broadway Baptist Church, is our chaplain of the day. His spiritual guidance and civic leadership truly serves as an example for all citizens of Augusta. Given my hand the second day of May, 2023, Garnett Johnson, Mayor. Thank you again, Reverend Booker.
Pastor Booker, thank you again for being here, sir. Madam Clerk, let's continue.
Call your attention to the recognition portion of our agenda. The Augusta Commission would like to offer its congratulations to Mr. James Joyner of the Engineering Department as the April 2023 Employee of the Month. Mr. Joyner, along with department directors, leaders, would like to join the mayor. Okay. Mayor Johnson. The Employee Recognition Committee has selected James Joyner as the April 2023 Employee of the Month for Augusta, Georgia. Mr. Joyner has worked with the Augusta Engineering and Environmental Services Department, where he has been employed for 28 years. Mr. Joyner currently serves as a crew supervisor. During his employment, he has excelled at job assignments given him. He has proven to be a dependable, dedicated employee who is always willing to help in any way requested. He strives and succeeds at helping to keep the cost of pipe repairs to a minimum. The engineering department would like to congratulate him on being named the Employee of the Month and acknowledge the tremendous success he has achieved. His work results are impressive as he maintains his work backlog to a minimum. We are grateful to have someone like him in our department who is willing to go above and beyond to accomplish work assigned to him. He exhibits dedication, initiative, dependability, knowledge, and outstanding character daily. Based on his nomination and James's outstanding service, the Employee Recognition Committee would appreciate you in joining us in recognizing him as the April 2023 Employee of the Month. Congratulations. At this time, we would like Mayor Johnson, along with Mayor Pro Tem Garrett, Mr. Mason, would you please, and Ms. Dowse, she's going to make the presentation. Dr. Malik, yeah. Dr. Malik, will you, thank you. Good. The Association of County Commissioners of Georgia award notice to the Augusta Commission for May 2nd, 2023. On behalf of the Office of the Administrator, we are pleased to share that ACCG, Georgia County Association, has named Augusta, Georgia, the recipient of a 2023 Georgia County Excellence Award for the 5th Street Pedestrian Bridge. The organization recognized that the city's work to modernize the historic bridge into a stunning 1,201-foot-long walkway across the Savannah River adds value, offering residents a new recreational space as the structure continues connecting pedestrians with the community. Mayor Johnson, Commissioner Stacy Pulliam, Commissioner Tony Williams, and Interim Administrator Dowse accepted the award on behalf of Augusta, Georgia during the ACCG's awards breakfast on Saturday, April 29, 2023, as part of the organization's annual conference in Chatham County. As we reflect on this recognition, Mrs. Dowse applauds Dr. Malik, Director of Augusta Engineering Department and Environmental Services, and the community partners involved in this project planning and design process. These local organizations include the Augusta Metro Chamber of Commerce, Augusta Tomorrow, and the Downtown Development Authority and the Great Augusta Arts Council. Congratulations, Augusta.
Madam Clerk, thank you so much. Mr. Joyner, congratulations again on being named Employee of the Month. It gave me great pride, along with my colleagues at Administrator Dowse, Commissioner Tony Lewis, Commissioner Stacy Pulliam. We were down in Savannah to receive this humbling award. For many of you don't know, the Freedom Bridge offers a great opportunity to continue to grow Augusta. It's a new shining beacon of light in our downtown. Excited about the project. Can't wait to have a grand ribbon cut. We haven't done that yet, but that's coming soon. There's a lot of great announcements coming. So this award certainly does Augusta well. Looking forward to many, many more to come. Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir.
Let's continue.
Okay. Call your attention to the delegation portion of our agenda. Our first delegation, item C, the National Small Business Week in Augusta. Commissioner Scott.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Mayor, colleagues, this week is the National Small Business Week in Augusta. The month of May is the National Small Business Month. And I was, Ms. Tanya Tillman reached out to Commissioner Jordan and I to inform us. And I said, what would be a fitting way for the commissioners to recognize this week at the commission meeting? Before I turn it over to you, I'm going to ask Commissioner Johnson if he has something to say, but we need to applaud our small business and recognize them and keep them afloat however we can. And this is just a small appreciation to all of the small business in Augusta. So thank you so much for choosing Augusta as your place to have your small business. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the Commissioner from the first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to echo the same sentiments as Commissioner Scott. Whenever we talk about economic development and business, it's easy to look at the big box stores. It's easy to look at the major corporations. But this week we have an opportunity to reach back and say thank you to the businesses in our city who may not have that type of revenue. You know, emerging businesses that are just starting, the visions, you know, the businesses that came out of some type of vision that God perhaps has given you. So we thank you for what you do. We thank you for the contributions that you give to our city. And we want you to know that we are continuing to commit to be business friendly, certainly small business friendly, but happy National Small Business Week. And from the city of Augusta, we just want to thank you. So thank you so much. Thank you, Commissioner Scott.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Ms. Tillman, will you stand up, please? Ms. Tillman is a small business owner, downtown Augusta, it's at 1028 Broad Street, and she's brought a lot of her colleagues with her today, and I'm going to ask the entire group that represent some of our small businesses to stand with her. So who's here in support of small business? I want to give all of you a round of applause. We certainly thank you guys for being here today. I realize that being a small business owner is one of the toughest jobs that you can have. Oftentimes, you're always the first to be to work and the last to get paid. There's always the daily struggles of the headaches of hiring folks and dealing with people and contracts and HR and some of everything. So I applaud you. Keep up the good work. As Commissioner Johnson said, we are a small business community. I support small business. If it were not for that, this economy that we have locally or nationally would not run without small businesses hiring people, engaging into our community. So on behalf of the mayor's office and my colleagues on the commission, thank you so much, and we appreciate you. Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Our next delegation, item D, Mr. Moses Todd, to discuss the need of an internal auditor, waste, fraud, and abuse prevention.
Thank you. Mr. Todd, if you will, for the record, please state your name and address.
Moses Todd, 2747 Deansbridge Road, Augusta, Georgia, and I'm here representing I Love Augusta.
Thank you, sir. You have 5 minutes.
Yes. Mr. Mayor, a little history on internal audit in the Augusta-Richmond County government. I think the last time it was probably discussed on your side of the dais was 2017. So it's not a, internal audit and internal controls for the Augusta-Richmond County government is no stranger here, that, and there's a need for it, but it shouldn't be political size, weaponized political, or weaponized as far as departments go. If you're going to have an internal audit and you don't have a red flag, and the person that should make the decision on whether there's a red flag or not should be the administrator. The administrator installs the internal controls and framework for the internal controls. So, my position is that I support internal audit. I can give you a little history. In the 90s, mid-90s, we had a situation at the landfill. The director out there threw a red flag. The administrator, carried it to the internal auditor. The internal auditor reviewed what was going on, and they felt they had theft going, so they called for a sheriff department investigation, and there was arrests made at the landfill. We had the same situation in fleet management in the 90s. Internal auditor caught it. It was vendor not delivering, but the controls didn't catch the fact that we were paying for tires. And that was caught by internal auditor. But none of those situations was where it was weaponized politically or by personalities of departments. There's a national TA guide or training assistant guide that's presented by Mr. John Thompson for the Low-Income Housing and Energy Assistance Program. It's a webinar, and I'd advise each commissioner and each department head to, go to that webinar and look at it. It's a learning tool. It talks about waste, fraud, and abuse, prevention, correction, and controls. Only the courts can decide whether fraud has happened. The administration and law enforcement can allege it. So we'll move on to abuse. I think that important of the abuse part of this is that, it can be done by someone using their position of power to do things, or it can be, an innocent paying a bill or where it's no longer required to be paid, like a utility bill or a rent bill, et cetera. Well, that's not necessarily a malfeasance, but it's something that we should have internal controls in to catch. And I can assure you that the administrator have internal controls through IT and manual. And I think it's a wrong approach to go out at departments by naming them and saying we need an internal audit.
You have 1 minute, sir.
Where's the red flag for that internal audit? Yes, got you, sir. Where's the red flag for the internal audit? There should never be an internal audit called for without a red flag. If you do, then you are abusing your power and authority. So, that's my take on it. And I'm going to close by saying I'm in support of internal audits. This government have always had internal audits. I think that the administrator's office, possibly finance and risk management, should be the individuals that would decide whether that red flag is thrown. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Todd. Looking through the queue. I don't see any questions in the queue. Mr. Todd, thank you again for being here, sir. Have a great day. Madam Clerk, let's continue.
Okay. Our next delegation, item D, Augusta Pride, Inc., regarding our request to cover security costs for 2 events, Beats on Broad, scheduled for June 23rd, and the Augusta Pride Festival, scheduled for June 24th, 2023.
Thank you. Sir, if you will, for the name, state your name and address.
Michael Bernard, 975 Hurd Avenue.
You have 5 minutes, sir.
All right. So just to kind of give you a little information about Augusta Pride and the reason I'm here today, this is coming up on our 13th annual festival here in the city of Augusta. We run the 3rd largest festival at the Augusta Commons. We are a 2-day event, Friday, June 23rd and 24th this year. We see over 14,000 people in attendance over the 2-day period and have over a $1.2 million economical impact to the city of Augusta over the course of the 2 days. We have a great long-lasting relationship with not only the city, the Augusta Parks and Rec, and Richmond County, and have had no issues, luckily, over the past 13 years. So we come in front of the commission today, like other festivals, to ask for your support in our security costs going into the 2023 festival. Due to current security concerns with our community, specifically our transgender community and our drag community, when it comes to the political climate that we're in, that is why we're seeking some help. Overall, this will allow us to continue to keep costs low and continue to drive our economical impact within the city. We do use Richmond County Sheriff's Office, so the funds will stay local when it comes to that. Last year's base cost was $8,160 is what we paid Richmond County over the last the 2 days of our festival. That is just the base. This could expect to be more this year, but once again, we're just asking the commission for support.
Thank you, sir. I guess I'll ask the first question. Help me understand your business model. Do you have sponsors? Traditionally, how has this cost been covered?
Yes, we do have sponsors. We also have local fundraising. We do everything we can to, support the cost in an overall event. It does cost about $150,000 to put on our event.
All right. Seeing my colleague from the 5th, Commissioner Williams.
Yes, sir. I was going to ask you, before we, start the debate and make a decision on this one, could we hear the next one before we make a decision on this one to see what direction we need to go in, or whether we're going to fund one or fund two or what have you? I'd like to hear the next one.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm going to go through the queue before we answer that question. Chair recognizes the Commissioner from the 7th.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't think we can make a motion today. Is that correct, Ms. Bonner?
It's on the agenda. Yes, sir.
Oh, we could. Okay.
Yeah.
So my feeling about this is that we supported St. Patrick's Day. We supported Juneteenth. I don't know how we not support this. But I think we've got to, it's evident what's opened up the Pandora's box and what can we do moving forward. I think that into 2024, we've got to come up with a mechanism that basically there's a lump of money and it's handled either through Destination Augusta, maybe the DDA, I don't know. But I think that we've got to have a little bit more tighter controls on this. My personal feeling is that everybody ought to get the same amount, because I don't know how you can put
That's why.
the importance of one event versus the other. That's too hard. And so that's why I feel like that from my standpoint, we have to support it with the way we supported the first two a month or so ago. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And Mr. Mayor, that's why I'm requesting to hear the others before we make a decision on these.
You got it, sir. We'll hear him in just a second. Let me recognize the Commissioner from the 10th, Commissioner Guilfoyle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is for the administrator. Ms. Dowse, last month when the Irish came before us, as well as the gentleman band of brothers came before us for Juneteenth, and that's the reason why I can't figure out. There's a duplicate on here for the Juneteenth as well.
It's another organization.
I think you were tasked to reach out to the CVB in order to put something in place, so these individuals or people could actually be vetted through that process versus coming before this commission. I know Pandora's box is open from last month, and we're going to have to shut it. This is going on too much, too far, too long. So did you have a chance to speak? May I ask, Mr. Mayor, Administrator?
Yes.
Thank you.
Madam Administrator.
Commissioner, you did not finish your question, but I'm thinking you're asking, did I have a chance to meet with Destination Augusta? And if that is your question, then yes, I, along with Parks and Recreation, as well as the Finance Department, met with Destination Augusta to craft a plan for how the commission can move to assist nonprofits in efforts such as this with events that either bring an economic impact to our community as well as fundraising through parades and events of this nature. A decision or a recommendation, as you know, at this moment has not been brought back to the body, but yes, they are meeting with their respective teams to see what pathway would be a best practice for Augusta going forward.
All right, so you just said something that was valuable in your wording is the nonprofit. So a nonprofit, that's a 501(c)(3). They have to be already in the system to accept money is for y'all's criteria. Would that be correct?
So in 2017, the Augusta Commission did create a policy surrounding how Augusta gives funding to non-governmental organizations, also known as NGOs, and that can include 501(c)(3) organizations that are declared by the government. In this particular case, I am not aware of the Augusta Pride Incorporation's status concerning how they currently operate their business model. But yes, to answer that question, that does include 501(c)(3) nonprofit organizations.
Right. I thank you, Madam Administrator. I do like the fact that when Band of Brothers came before us, the Irish came before us, they had a list of what economic values they was going to bring to Augusta, Richmond County, the impact and the reason, as well as the cost. I see that the Pride actually has two different venues, and actually they asking for $4,080 per venue. Are y'all a 501(c)(3)?
We are an incorporated 501(c)(3). The venue, it's a two-day event, Friday and Saturday, hosted at the Augusta Common. So it's in one place, yes.
Okay.
We do have a track record with economical impact. If I remember correctly, the exact from the CVB was a little over 1.4 million last year over the two-day period.
Okay. I thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
I'll wait to see if somebody makes a motion. If not, I will.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner, from the 10th. It is my understanding the Commissioner from the 5th would like to hear from the next organization.
And then we can come back and make motions or whatever, but I like to hear from these guys.
Sir, would you have anything else to add before we move on?
No.
All right. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Madam Clerk.
Okay. Our final delegation, item F, Mr. Morris Porter, regarding a request for funding assistance for security for the 2023 Juneteenth parade.
It's not the same.
Thank you. Sir, if you will, for the record, please state your name, address.
My name is Morris Porter. Address is 2223 Grandwood Lane, Augusta, Georgia, 30909.
All right, sir, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, commissioners, and any other elected officials that may be present today. As I stated before, my name is Morris Porter. I'm an 18-year veteran of the United States Army. I ended my term of service earlier than I wanted to due to an injury that I received in a line of duty. But I wanted to continue serving my community, so this is the community that I grew up in. Therefore, I took on many hats in the community. I've served as the first vice president and youth advisor of the local chapter of the NAACP. I also served as, I served on the non-discrimination ordinance committee for the city of Augusta, where we passed an ordinance to combat discrimination. I'm currently the vice president of the Augusta Richmond County Public Library System Board of Trustees. And I am also currently the treasurer for Augusta African American Historic Preservation Council. And that's an organization that's geared towards preserving historical contributions by African Americans. But I stand before you today wearing the hat of the president and youth director for National Action Network of the CSRA. National Action Network, also known as NAN of the CSRA, is a nonprofit organization that focuses on one standard of justice, decency, and equal opportunity for all people. We empower our youth through community engagement, mentorship, and leadership. NAN has been a very active organization since its inception here in Augusta. We've consistently demonstrated dedication and commitment to improving the community through selfless service, education, and volunteerism. Mostly from our own pockets. We've hosted events such as voter registration restoration to assist those that was purged from the voter registration list. We've organized annual legislative days where we take groups of youth to the state capitol and let them experience legislation taking place in real time. We've partnered with law enforcement, judges, and local attorneys to host an annual Know Your History, Know Your Rights campaign speech competition during Black History Month, just to inform the community and the youth of their rights and to enlighten them on Black history. We've organized multiple slave plantation tours for the youth and adults alike to enlighten them on their experience with slavery. We've partnered with the Community Service Division of the Sheriff's Department to host an annual Youth Appreciation Day camping event, which is now 2 days, to improve relationships with policing and community and to combat gun violence. NAN has conducted multiple voter registration drives, mass drives, clothing drives, food drives, community cleanup, public forums, etc. We've done a lot of things in the community. And all this we did to assist the improvement of our community. So we're here today to ask for the assistance in yet another event to improve the community through engagement and education. The Juneteenth Parade. Now, I understand that someone thought that we were the Band of Brothers, but we're not the Band of Brothers. Okay, good. And so we're not the Band of Brothers, who you have spoken with in the past. Although the Band of Brothers share the same vision that we have as well. We have two different things that we're doing. Band of Brothers is doing a festival, and we're doing a parade.
You have 1 minute, sir.
Yes,
1 minute.
Thank you. The last 6 years, we've been celebrating Juneteenth. We received a proclamation from the city of Augusta. We've held our first annual Juneteenth parade last year with the support of the city. This year, we would like to host a parade on Broad Street to shorten the route and to be more engaging in the communities of Broad. So we're asking for the city to allocate funding that goes directly to the Sheriff's Department just for the security portion of the parade. So it doesn't have to come to us. We're asking that y'all send it to the Sheriff's Department so that they can secure the parade. We'll take care of the rest. I was quoted a cost from the Traffic Service Division of the Sheriff's Department at an amount of $7,280. So visualize it. Augusta being a destination point for tourists to celebrate Juneteenth, just as they do when they go to Rio to celebrate Carnival. This will give us an opportunity to celebrate and educate communities on the holiday while generating additional revenue for the city of Augusta. We can do this, but with the help of our local government. So I thank you for allowing me to speak today, and I pray that you can see the potential that having the Juneteenth parade has for the city of Augusta.
Thank you, sir, for being here. Before I open it up to my colleagues, there's a few people in the queue. My first question is, when is the proposed date for the Juneteenth parade?
June 17th, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, and I still
That's on
have
a
some
Saturday.
questions.
Okay, I'm getting to you. Commissioner from the 5th.
Yes, sir. Okay, so what do you guys do that you need security?
Well, we need security to block off the roads.
So
That's it.
what is the Band of Brothers doing with $20,000?
They're doing a festival on, I believe their festival is on Monday. So there's two totally different events.
So who's doing the parade?
NAN.
NAN. Who is NAN?
National Action Network of the CSRA.
That's you?
Yes, sir.
Jesus, we're going to have to close this door. Can I make a motion?
Well, there's one other person in the queue first.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Commissioner from the 7th.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What is the parade route?
Parade route is going to start down on 13th Street in Broad. It's going to come straight down Broad Street, turn on 7th Street, and go into the James Brown Arena parking lot.
So the same parade route as the Christmas parade?
Yes, sir.
And they quoted you $7,000 for that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I mean, my personal thoughts are that we ought to get the 2 quotes from the Sheriff's Department, see them in person, and vote on this in 2 weeks. That's what I feel like we ought to do, because I just don't know that
Well,
it's
I mean, well, he already got the thing from the Sheriff's Department.
it's not what he said. He said traffic and engineering gave it to him. I mean, like a statement, like
Traffic and engineering, not the Sheriff's Department?
No, the Sheriff's
All right.
Department.
Wait a second. Wait a second. Call it.
Okay, sir, my motion is to give both organizations $5,000. Them, National Action, and the Pride folks, give them both $5,000.
All right. Is there a second on that motion before I recognize our administrator? I have a motion. Is there a second? So I have a motion and a second. Madam Administrator?
Commissioners, I wanted to make certain that you are aware the Sheriff's Office has increased their hourly security rate per dollar an hour, and the rate that is given to an individual that would be paying for their security is a different rate than if Augusta were to pay those security costs on behalf of that organization. Augusta would then be responsible for paying time and a half because those employees are employees of the organization, which would then cause Augusta to pay benefits that the employee would also be entitled to, as well as taxes. I wanted to make sure you were aware of that. And 2, because of that, the $8,160 that was charged to the Augusta Pride Incorporated last year, that figure would most likely increase because of the increase in the per dollar an hour rate. The Sheriff's Office also has a minimum amount of hours that each one of the officers are responsible for receiving. In 2017, actually May 2nd of 2017 to be exact, this commission, not of course the individuals that are here today, but the Augusta Commission approved standards in which Augusta can give an organization funding. Those standards have caused problems recently as to how Augusta is able to give money to non-governmental organizations, NGOs. So please keep that in mind when making your decision today.
Thank you, Madam Administrator. Chair recognizes the Commissioner from the first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know there's a motion and a second made, and we're about ready to vote, but I want to just circle back to the Administrator. I know she mentioned at the beginning of this conversation that some plan was being drafted. Did I hear that correctly? A plan being drafted to help support our NGOs? Can you elaborate on that again? I'm sorry.
Sure. In speaking with Destination Augusta, the Augusta Parks and Recreation Department, the Finance Department, and myself, we are working on recommendations to present to this body during budget season on how best to move forward with additional funding that can be offered to individuals such as this or organizations such as this that are interested in having fundraisers or any other type of economic activities within our community.
Okay, and that sounds good. I just want us to get to the point to where we don't, view this as a burden to support the community when they come and ask for money. Although, we need to have some type of uniform way of doing that. So I like the fact that we're moving on that. We just need to make sure that we are, not treating this like a bad thing, but making sure that it's an equitable thing. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Chair recognizes the Commissioner from the 10th.
Mr. Mayor, I would like the motion of the maker of the motion doesn't mind splitting the question. I'd rather for these 2 agenda items to stand alone as themselves. Because I look at it like this: Augusta Pride is bringing in $1.4 million economic value. They did the research. They already had what they paid last year, so they only asking $4,080 per event. Mr. Porter, it should be nice if you and the Band of Brothers could teamwork together and do the Juneteenth all in one day. And if not, what you asking for? Well, we already gave $25,000 to the Band of Brothers to do the Juneteenth at the Commons. In other words, City of Augusta taxpayers is going to be giving out $32,280 for Juneteenth.
Well, I don't have a problem if you want to split
Commissioner, I'm going to get to you in just a second. Commissioner,
we need to give him
Commissioner,
$7,000 if you're going to give them $8,000.
Commissioner from the 5th, the Commissioner from the 10th is not yielded yet. Commissioner from the 10th, continue.
Well, I'm just saying.
Commissioner from the 10th.
To reply to my colleague, it probably would have been better if the gentleman from the Augusta Pride would have came up here at 2 different times then for 2 different venues apparently, and he would have come out better if we're going to do it at $5,000 apiece. I just don't see the substance behind this agenda item where Mr. Porter did say pay the Sheriff's Department, but you see the challenges from our administrator. We would have to pay him time and a half, we would be responsible, and it'd incur a lot more debt than what you had asked for.
So we are working, Band of Brothers and I, we have been communicating, and there's something moving forward. We are trying to kind of link together and actually do this for Juneteenth.
But you understand our position, well, my position, I can't speak for my colleagues.
But if you do a substitute,
Commissioner from the 5th, you will be given an opportunity in just a second, sir.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
You'll
you
be
just
given an
need to
opportunity in
make
just a
sure
second.
that if you do one,
You will be given
need
an
to do the
opportunity in
other the
just a
same
second,
way,
sir.
okay? Thank
Commissioner
you,
from the
sir.
5th.
All right,
Commissioner from the 10th, continue.
all right,
You know, this can of worms was opened up a month ago.
it was.
It sure would have been nice if we would have shut it down then, but we didn't. But there was a plan put in place where the interim administrator already got in motion, fortunately. It depends on what you want to do. It doesn't matter to me. I could shut it all down. I don't have to vote for anything. But if we're going to be fair, let's be fair about it all the way across the board. We got 3 different venues here. Give each one of them $4,080 apiece. I don't care.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes now it's properly acknowledged the Commissioner from the 5th.
Oh, I'm good. I'm just saying if he wants to do a substitute vote, a substitute motion and split it, that's fine. It's just that if you're going to give them 8,100, you need to give him his 7,000, what have you, instead of, I just want to say let's do 5 across the board because it's something that we need to close the door on. However, we opened it, it's open. Let's give them something. They may have to raise some money, and that's it. I mean, whatever you guys want to do. I just proposed something. We can vote it up or vote it down. I'm still going home. I'm going to feed my cat.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Commissioner from the 8th.
Thank you, Mayor. I think the gentleman from the Pride had his hand up earlier. Was there more that you wanted to add, sir?
So to the administrator's point, like our organization does understand increased cost. So when we came to the commission, we were just giving a baseline of the total cost of what it was for security last year. So we are aware that our security cost would be more. So that is how we presented our dollar amount, just so you know.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Chair Knight recognizes Commissioner from the 1st.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to be very brief here. It just kind of baffles me a little bit. I understand the concern, but it baffles me that we're going back and forth about how to support economic drivers in our community. We talk about Augusta don't have anything to do, or Augusta can't do this and can't do that. But when we're faced with an opportunity to support something that can make Augusta a great place, we do this. We say that the can of worms was open. We're not fishing. There's no can of worms even talking about here. We're talking about supporting organizations that's adding millions of dollars back into the coffers in Augusta, Richmond County. I mean, we don't talk like this when Serenity came and asked for money in the budget. We didn't talk about this when Arts in the Heart asked for additional money for security. We didn't even talk about it. So what are we going back and forth about? They're asking for dollars to help the city be the city. So what I would suggest is that we give them what they're asking for, and then we allow the administrator to come back with these recommendations that she said that they're going to have for us during the budget cycle. We're talking folks in the budget, folks asking for SPLOST money, folks asking for ARP money. We have no mechanism to support them, and they keep coming, as they should. It's their government. So I'm not saying give nobody a blank check, but let's stop talking like these community groups are burdens to the community when it's not a free endeavor. Folks are spending money to come back into our coffers so that we can then in turn do more. So let's always keep that in mind, and let's stop talking about these organizations like they're burdens, a can of worms. Come on now, we can do better than that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Commissioner. Chair recognizes Commissioner from the 7th.
Call for the question.
Call for the question. Madam Clerk, I have a motion and I have a second. Can you reread the motion? Or have the Commissioner from the 5th to restate it, please?
The motion was to grant $5,000 funding to both organizations, funding to assist for their respective events, security assistance for their respective events.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Seeing no further commissioners in the queue. Madam Clerk, voting.
That motion carries 8-2 with Ms. McKnight and Mr. Guilfoyle voting no.
Thank you. Mr. Porter, thank you guys for both being here today. Put on great events that makes Augusta proud. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. All right, Madam Clerk.
Okay.
Let's continue.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, we have one addendum agenda. Did you want to add that on before we start?
Certainly can do that.
All right.
So as long as we have consent, everybody good with this addendum agenda item? And are there any objectors to these addendum agenda item for engineering? The author is Commissioner Alvin Mason. No, he's just kidding. There are no objections. Madam Clerk, we'd like to add, please. Thank you.
All right, call your attention to our consent agenda, which consists of items 1 through 21. Items 1 through 21. For, let's see, we only, no alcohol petitions, no planning petitions, okay. Our consent agenda, items 1 through 21.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Chair recognizes the Commissioner from the 7th.
I'd like to add agenda items number 24 and 25 to consent agenda.
24 and 25. Oh, on 24, Mr. Friend, we need to select a candidate for the second. There's 2 candidates, and we need to vote for one of those in our response back. I think Commissioner McKnight and Councilman Cullors, they received the second nomination, so there's 2, and we need to select one from those, as well as the slate of officers recommended by the 7 district GMA officers.
So I'd like to recommend Commissioner Catherine McKnight.
Okay.
Does that need a second or anything?
Does that require a second?
He's nominating Ms. McKnight. Are there any other nominations? No. Okay. So so agenda item would read the nominated slate of Georgia Municipal Association District 7 officers to include Commissioner McKnight as Augusta's vote for the 3rd vice president. Okay?
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
All right. Chair recognizes Commissioner from the 4th.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If there's no objections from my fellow colleagues, I'd like to consent item number 22.
No, sir.
Okay. Chair recognizes Commissioner from the 8th.
Thank you. I'd like to add item 23 to the consent agenda.
All right. I think
Motion to approve as stated.
I think there's an wait a second. Is there an objection to 23? There's an objection to 23, so it cannot be added, Madam Clerk.
Okay, so that the items that were added, they were 24, 25.
Yep.
Oh, you had the addendum? Okay.
And the addendum.
So that leaves 22 and 23.
22 and 23.
And I'm sorry, I didn't, who motion, did you, Mr. Frenno?
Addendum, yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Second.
well, the consent agenda,
Yeah, I did.
you did, and who seconded? You, Mr. Garrett? Okay.
All right. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. You give me just a second. I did. Madam Clerk, are we ready to vote? You ready? You got.
Let me just say, our consent agenda would consist of items 1 through 21, with the additions of items 24, 25 in our addendum agenda.
All right.
So that's what we're voting.
All right. Let's vote.
It's unanimous.
All right. Madam Clerk, let's continue.
That will take us to item 22. Item 22 is a motion to approve the renaming of the Sammy Sias Way to Jamestown Lane effective immediately. Commissioner Alvin Mason.
Thank you. Commissioner, somebody's got some good. Commissioner Mason.
Great.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I place this on the agenda. I think it's time for us to go ahead and move forward with renaming of Sammy Sias Way to Jamestown Lane, which is more appropriate for the Jamestown Community Center, and I would put that in the form of a motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Mason. I have a motion, I have a second, and I have a colleague in the queue. So, Chair recognizes Commissioner from the 5th.
Yes, sir. Mr. Sias was a colleague of mine for some time. I don't, know when they did the Sammy Sias Drive or what have you, but as we know, it takes 6 votes to get anything done. So I'm not sure if Mr. Sias voted for himself and then 4 other people. Okay, he said before he was elected. So people selected that name without him at all. So Commissioner Franham is saying this was selected the name of the street before Mr. Sias was even elected. And I think to have something named after is a great thing and so forth and so on, but that's not why we're here today. I think that the commission at that time thought a lot of that man, thought that he did a lot for the community. And regardless of what you think of Mr. Sias, he was probably the best policymaker that we had up here when I was here, and probably the best policymaker the entire time that he was here. The fact that you had 6 commissioners voted to name it Sammy Sias Way says a lot about a particular person. There's not a whole lot I can say right now, but I think just to change the name of the street right now to something else or what have you is not just disrespectful to him, it's disrespectful to the people that thought the street should be named after him. I'm not going to sit here and try to talk it out or what have you, try to make sense of it or what have you, but I just think changing the name right now is not a good thing. And I'll be quiet. I know we got to vote, but commissioners, what I want you to think of, somebody's going to name something after you one day if you do what you're supposed to. And then you get a commissioner that comes behind you and says, well, I don't like the guy who came before me, so let's wipe his name out. Well, I just don't think that's good. If you go to Glen Hills High School, my picture's on the wall at Glen Hills High School. Because I'm not going to say I was a great principal. I'm just going to say you had some people who appreciated me. So if a principal were to go in and snatch my picture off the wall, I'd probably feel some kind of way if somebody called me and told me the principal that came in and snatched my picture off the wall, and I'm trying to figure out why I didn't do anything to him. But let's move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner from the 5th. Chair recognizes Commissioner from the 9th.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Commissioner Mason, did we follow all of the protocol for renaming, getting with IT and whoever we have to do? Because I just sent in a renaming, honorary renaming. So I want to make sure, since this did not come through committee, do we have everything in place if we vote to make this change?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we do. I spoke with the engineering director as well as IT, Ms. Tamika Allen, and this does not need to go through committee because you do not have to do what you're doing as far as there's no homes, so there's no names to sign up to say a name change. It's a commission action, just like it was a commission action to begin with. So 6 votes or more will effectively make this motion or carry this motion. There's nothing more that needs to be done in reference to that. Now, I know Ms. Allen is at some sort of conference. I think she has someone here to speak to that, if that's something that you would like to hear from an additional person, that we've checked all boxes, and we've also checked the name Jamestown to make sure that it fits and that there's not another name in Augusta, Richmond County named Jamestown. So we have a representative here from the IT.
Hey, sir. How are you?
Good. Reggie Horn, Deputy CIO in the IT department. The action to name the road Sammy Sias Way as it is now was taken in August of 2009. It was a commission action. Prior to it being named Sammy Sias Way, it was not named at all. There are no current addresses on the road, so all it takes is a commission action.
Thank you, sir. All right. Commissioner Mason, I see you still in the queue. Do you have anything further to add?
Just ask for a roll call vote, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much. Madam Clerk, he's asking for a roll call vote. Chair recognizes the Commissioner from the 1st.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to take this opportunity to get myself in trouble. Let me remind the commission that Calhoun Expressway is still up and that we have a Confederate monument in the middle of the Broad Street that we need to talk about eventually as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much. Chair recognizes Commissioner from the 10th.
No, it's ready for a roll call vote, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Madam Clerk, we have a motion and a second. This body has requested a roll call vote.
Okay, Mr. Mason and Mr. Wayne Guilfoyle, motion number 22. Mr. Franham,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Garrett,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Son, I'm sorry.
Huh?
It's the old sheet.
Is he's still here? You want to weigh in?
He cannot vote.
Oh,
He may
okay.
be here, but he cannot vote.
Okay, all right.
Okay, Mr. Johnson,
Let me ask Mr. Hassan. How about that? Yes, ma'am.
Ms. McKnight. Yes, ma'am. Ms. Scott.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Mason,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Bobby Williams.
No, ma'am.
Okay, that leaves Mr. Guilfoyle,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes, ma'am.
and Ms. Pulliam.
Yes, ma'am.
That motion carries 9-1.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Let's continue.
Item 23 is a motion to hire a local third-party accounting firm, separate and independent from the external auditors who perform financial statement audits on an annual basis, to perform regularly scheduled internal financial and operational audits on all city departments, ensuring every department is audited at a minimum of once every 4 years. Said firm will represent the findings quarterly to the full commission, requested by Commissioner McKnight.
Chair recognizes Commissioner from the 3rd.
Thank you, Mr.
Commissioner
Mayor. I hope my vote goes as well as my colleague down there from the 4th. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead. You know, this has been brought up for the past, this now is on the agenda for the 3rd time. It was on committee last week. It was discussed the week before, now it's back. And I feel that I've been very patient and very, I've tried to get in touch with most of my colleagues. But anyway, where I'm going with this is, I started out with wanting a forensic audit. And that came about a couple of year and a half ago when former Commissioner Clark and myself thought that it would be good to see that this be done. But we are in the present time today moving forward. And so talking to other municipalities, one next door to us, Columbia County, they conduct these audits. What I'm bringing up and what's stated here, internal financial and operational audits, they do those, and they do them pretty much, they're routinely done. And they're not looking to find wrongdoing. Operational audit basically is saying that you're looking at the department's their organization, the way that they manage, and that they are checked in upon. And I think that this is something that's effective, it's productive, and it's efficient to make sure that we are checking to see that our departments are doing what they're supposed to be doing. I know we can't micromanage, but we're also not out there looking and seeing what's going on a day-to-day basis. And so, yeah, I think that an operational audit should be conducted like Columbia County and others that are following it. I don't understand why Richmond County can't follow this as well and ease some of the frustrations that our citizens here in Augusta, Richmond County have.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Chair recognizes Commissioner from the 7th who's in the queue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For Commissioner McKnight, is it internal or external? Because, hiring a third-party firm is external, and then I keep hearing internal.
Well, this would be internal. We already do an external audit once a year annually. I asked Mrs. Williams last week if we do internal, and I was told no. I also know from talking to someone that this sort of the way this is situated, that years ago that Richmond County did something very similar to this, like Columbia County, but yet it was not followed through with, and it wasn't consistent. So I say we bring this back and we follow it and be consistent, and let's see what happens with our departments and see some improvement that needs to be made. We know that there needs to be improvement. I'm not saying anybody's doing a bad job, but I wonder where sometimes money is going, why our roads can't be paved. 3 times coming down Walton Way today about busted my tire with potholes. Why are our roads, for instance, why are they not being paved?
Okay.
All right.
So, but the motion says hire a third party.
Yes.
Okay, so that means an external firm's going to come look at our operations and procedure.
Internal, a local third party. I'm looking at.
Sense. It's either external or internal, and you can't have it both ways. Like you said, hire a third party accounting firm. That means an external is going to come and look at what we do.
We already have an external. We would hire somebody differently.
But that's external.
Okay.
Well.
Let me tell you where I'm going and where my head is on this.
Okay, go ahead.
In my mind, we need to be focused on the operational and procedural methods of each department. How are we taking in cash? Is there a good accountability of that? Should we be taking in cash in some of these, things like that to make the organization better? We can't go back. Things have done wrong. We can't go back. We can't hold people accountable. Half of them probably don't even work here anymore. But my point is, I'm for this, but I'm for it for more of the operational procedural, because that is what my understanding was from the Columbia County standpoint, is that every 4 years they go into organizations and try to look each one, including elected officials, which I fully support here doing elected officials. But I think we're mixed messages on where we're going with this, and that's where I'm at. That's what I support: operational, procedural, external, coming in, randomly selecting different organizations, each organization once out every 4 years.
Yeah, okay. The motion that I had placed 2 weeks ago was exactly the motion. Excuse me, District 5 Commissioner.
Call my name.
Okay. Well, all right.
Call my name.
Anyway, may I proceed?
Proceed, Commissioner.
The exact motion that I put on there 2 weeks ago was exactly the motion, pretty much, that Columbia County has in place that I got. So, I put this out here, and if, I feel like that I've made an effort to put it out here. If none of my colleagues want to support any kind of audits or any kind of external, any operational audit, then okay, we'll be different from every other county. But you wonder why everybody's upset in this town? It's because we aren't doing what we're supposed to be doing. This is a step in the right direction. That's my opinion.
I'm not saying it's not a step in the right direction. I just think that people are confused up here that are making this decision
well,
and this vote
I don't think
because
that they're that
we're going
confused.
back and forth, internal, external. What are we doing? So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Thank you, sir. Chair recognizes the commissioner from the first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. People are upset because we're sharing a narrative that is not in line with what is factual. We're talking about what the government is not doing. We're the governing body. If we want our departments to be doing certain things, it takes 6 votes to do that. We talk all the time about these firms that come in and help all of our different departments. We mention Maurice McDowell in Parks and Recreation every week for whatever reason. That was a commission decision. We talk about why roads aren't being paved. Well, that's because we're not allocating the resources. That's our problem. We're talking about why trees aren't being cut and why houses aren't being demoed. All these things, that is our problem. This doesn't solve that. And so what this does, however, it looks at the operational standpoint, the SOP standpoint, and we already had a conversation about where we stand SOP-wise with this government. So this might be helpful later on down the line, but if we approve this today, what will this auditor look at? They have nothing to look at.
Oh.
So I still have the floor, Commissioner McKnight. I still have the floor.
Yes, sir, you do.
Thank you.
Continue.
Thank you. I appreciate having your permission to continue speaking. At the end of the day, if we're going to have a motion on the floor to go this route, a route that's going to, number one, cost us money, it's going to disrupt the flow of operations in our departments, it's going to do so much for us that we don't really understand the scope of what this is going to cost. This does not mean that we don't stand for transparency. This don't mean any of those things. It just means that we have to be responsible with the decisions that we make as commissioners. And just throwing stuff against the wall to see if it's going to stick is irresponsible. That's my only take on this thing. And it's going to keep going on the agenda. I understand that, but we have an opportunity to actually tell the truth here. Let's do it. We already have an audit. It comes back fine. What are we looking for?
We do one time a year, an annual external.
Thank you, Commissioner.
That's not enough.
Thank you, Commissioner from the first. Chair recognizes Commissioner from the fourth, Commissioner Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I could, please, can I have our Director of Finance come up, please? Get some clarity.
All right.
Is it okay to proceed, Mr. Mayor?
It is okay.
Thank you.
Please proceed. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Ms. Williams. Let's see, where do I begin? The auditing that goes on within the city, is it an external or internal audit?
External. Okay.
Please.
Okay. It is an external firm that provides us with our financial audit.
Okay.
Okay. External to me just describes where the personnel that are conducting the process reside. Are they employees of Augusta, or are they outside contracted individuals? The financial audit is required to be done by an external firm to come in and to review the financial documents and reports that my department as well as other departments have produced, and then they provide an opinion as to the accuracy of those reports. So it is done by an external CPA firm.
Okay. And do we have any internal audits that are done within Augusta, Richmond County, or by a third party?
There is a contract that is in the process of expiring with a third-party external firm that would provide what is typically described as internal audit processes. That oh Lord, I can't remember how many years ago now, Augusta did have personnel on staff that was in an internal audit department, a separate department. Governments take two different tracks to do this type of operation. Augusta decided that they would no longer have employees provide these operational and control-related reviews.
Right.
They would outsource that. So you have an external firm doing processes that are typically called internal audits. So there is some confusion. Macon, Bibb County, and Columbus still have an internal audit department where their own personnel conduct those audits. Numerous other governmental agencies outsource that.
Now, in your experience, would you say that an internal audit would be something that would be beneficial?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And so, and done by a third party and not anyone internal?
Being done by a third party removes any political pressures that might be applied against an individual that draws their paycheck from Augusta. So that's the reason why some organizations, some governments use that methodology.
Okay. And as a government responsible with a fiduciary responsibility of the citizens' money, so which comes down to the operations of how we do things internally, it's always, in my opinion, effective to be more effective and efficient in terms of how we operate and to make sure that we're doing it correctly and in a transparent manner. The external or third-party accounting firm would be the appropriate way to go if we were to do an internal audit.
It is the preferred methodology so far from Augusta.
Thank you.
For some number of years.
I appreciate that. Thank you. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Chair recognizes the Commissioner from the 3rd. I think she wants to restate her motion.
Yes, I wanted to restate it and take out, Mrs. Bonner, where it says scheduled internal financial. I wanted to remove that internal financial and have it regularly scheduled operational audits.
Thank you, Commissioner from the 3rd.
You are welcome.
Madam Clerk, did you note that?
Can that be restated in a motion?
And can you restate that?
Okay, it's the motion to hire a third-party accounting firm separate and independent from the external auditor who performs financial statement audits on an annual basis to perform regularly scheduled operational audits on all Augusta city departments, ensuring every department is audited at a minimum of once every 4 years. Said firm will present findings quarterly to the Augusta Commission.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Chair recognizes the Commissioner from the 9th.
I'll second that.
This question is for Ms. Williams. I have a question. Have this type of audit ever been done like an operation audit and from a third-party source like GMA, ACG, or some other kind of, have this been done in the city before?
No, ma'am, not by either of those two organizations.
Any organization, any company have an operation audit been done for the city of Augusta?
Any is a big word.
I can't hear you.
I said any at any time is a big word. I'm trying to recall most of the...
In the last 20 years.
Most of these type audits specifically relate to internal controls cash handling, etc. Operational audits, efficiency audits take on a different, those are done to different specifications. I cannot recall right off the top of my head if operational audits were done. It seems that there may have been done one in conjunction with environmental services at some point. I can't recall operational audits right now. Those are not usually done so much by a financial auditing firm. They are usually done by some sort of a consulting or specialized firm, very similar to the one that y'all just mentioned relating to looking at recreations processes and their plans.
So the answer is yes.
I think so.
Commissioner Scott, that's it? All right. Chair recognizes Commissioner from the 5th.
Thank you, sir. So, Ms. Williams, why'd you stay right there? You figured I had a question for you?
Probably, yes, sir. Based on past experience.
So tell me, what is an operational audit going to do for us?
Well, it depends on what the scope is and what the desired process is. If you want an operational audit of animal services, it's probably going to look a whole lot different than an operational audit from the tax commissioner's office.
Well,
It's
and I didn't mean to cut you off.
specifically designed. It's not a one-size-fits-all. Anytime you go looking at the operations of a particular department, as I kind of said before, you have to craft it related to what that department is doing. If you want to know how to...
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
Well, the way we're looking at it today is like we're going to throw it out there and we're going to do all of the departments. Is that what you do with an operational audit?
You could plan to do all departments. As each department's turn comes up, then there is a further conversation as to how to go about it and what the desired outcome and results would be that would be presented back to the governing body. So everyone is an operational audit and or a review, but you don't go about every one of them exactly the same way because every department does something different.
Well, I have to admit something. I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I'm still confused. Because if we vote this up today, it's like we're going to be throwing it out there. We don't know which department we're going to throw it at first. We don't know what the scope of it is going to be. I just think we need to talk about this some more before we decide that this is the route that we're going to go. Otherwise, you know, we're going to pay a company come in here and probably try to get organized first, and then we're going to have to come back and tell them what departments and where they need to go and what they need to do and what they're looking for. But this is not necessarily a money thing. This is more looking at your operations. And if we're going to do anything, I just feel like we need to do money. Thank you, man.
Thank you, Commissioner. Chair recognizes Commissioner from the 10th.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to put some clarity on this floor, if my colleagues don't mind. What does the operational audit deal with?
Is that for me?
Commissioner, can you restate the question, please?
Yeah. What does operational audit deal with? An operational audit refers to a method of examining how an organization conducts business. It requires analyzing the processes, procedures, and the systems used within that organization. This type of audit looks beyond the organization's financial circumstances and examines its management practice. So there's no scope of looking for wrong. Actually, what it was what I had brought up last week was the same thing we did for the rec department. We hired an outside agency to come in, no different than I have done for my company, and I'll guarantee you the mayor has done for his, is to bring a third party to come in and find out the best practice on, for me, to be efficient and how I can make a more profit within my company, and it paid for itself. I will say that. So this is not looking for faults. It's figure out, let's look at this one department, let's see how we could make it more efficient. And I don't see anything wrong with this operational audit whatsoever. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Chair recognizes the Commissioner from the 2nd. Commissioner Pulliam.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Johnson. To Commissioner Guilfoyle's point, I have a question for you, Director Williams. Is that, in fact, what will be done?
It can be, yes, ma'am. This is going, there will be an RFP process. The RFP will put out the scope of services that this commission wants done. If it is all operational audits, then fine. That's how the RFP is designed. It will list every single department, the number of, probably the respondents will want to know the budgets for those departments, the number of employees for those departments. There will be a whole lot of information that will be provided so that prospective bidders can have enough information to know how to respond to the RFP. That RFP will describe a scope of services. If it is an efficiency, operational audit, use any of those terms. If the desired outcome is cost savings, operational efficiencies, that language will be included in the RFP. If the RFP is designed to evaluate internal controls, that's another section that could be put in the RFP. And those are usually related more closely to those departments that handle funds. You know, are there control? Is the person that's taking the cash over the counter the same one that reconciles the bank account? What are the strength of the internal controls? If that is the desired outcome, that's the way the RFP gets written. RFPs are designed to elicit responses from prospective bidders that provide a specific service. So in order to put the RFP out there, the service needs to be defined. It can be anything that this body wants.
Okay. And so my next part to that question is, if there are procedures that are missing in those departments from an operational standpoint, such as if their SOPs are non-existent, which, you know, that may or may not be the case, are those departments going to be penalized, or is this just for us to be able to say, hey, this is not here, let's have this amount of time to get it right because this is what needs to be in place? Or is that a decision that we as a body have to make?
That would be your decision. The information would be brought back to this body. The results of any review would be brought back, discussed, and then, as is always the case, anything that happens after that requires a vote.
Okay. Because for me, from my standpoint, if we have not directed each department and said to those departments, this is the checklist of items that need to be in place before this audit is performed, if those departments were not already under the assumption or given that direction that you have to have these things in place to operate your department, we need to first do that. If we are considering, in fact, penalizing them if they don't have said things in place, like SOP manuals, like operational type things, if they don't have those in place and we have not directed them to do that, how can we penalize them? So I want to make sure that part is perfectly clear before I agree. I am all for an audit. I believe it is awesome. But I don't want to penalize our departments if we have not directed them that they have to have these things in place. That is very important. Thank you, Ms. Director Williams.
Thank you, Commissioner from the second. Chair recognizes Commissioner from the first, Commissioner Jordan.
Thank you,
Johnson.
Mr. Mayor. Just going to stay there for Ms. Williams. I only have one question for you, but I have a few others. I know we said this a few weeks ago. How much is this going to cost us? Or do we know right now?
We don't know.
All right, we don't know.
Put
So
out
there's
the RFP. You tell them what you want. And there's not a fixed amount. You can do like anything else that you do. You budget X amount of dollars, and you proceed with a spending plan for these various reviews, audits, until you get to that maximum, because a review of the compliance department with, I'm going to call it wrong, I was going to say, a small number of employees is going to look an awfully lot different than a review of the clerk of Superior Court.
So I think in that vein, yes, ma'am. I think in that vein, number one, I think the administrator ought to be the one kind of carrying the ball on this if this is the way the commission wants to go. I think also that the administrator is coming back to us very soon with the right sizing plan for the government. I know the mayor spoke very candidly when he took office about a workforce study, and we have a compensation study. There's a lot of studies going on to look at the efficiency of our government, where we are, and how we can get better. Those things are already in motion. So I'm not sure if we want to throw this in the middle, but if we do, I would suggest two things. I would suggest that the administrator perhaps look at this as a part of her right sizing plan, but with that being said, that the maker of the motion define the scope in the motion so that we'll know the direction that we need to take as a body. So, Mr. Mayor, if I could yield to the maker of the motion to define the scope.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner from the 3rd.
Where's the scope?
You have to tell us that.
Look, I tried to get in touch with you, Commissioner, from the 1st over the weekend, try to discuss this with you, and I'm not going to discuss this anymore. I've got a motion on the floor, and I've changed it, and so I don't feel like I need to answer anything else.
Oh, wait a second. Hold on. Wait a second. All right. Commissioner from the 1st.
Yes, sir. And I don't mean that statement to be volatile or back and forth. So I don't want you to take it that way, Commissioner McKnight. And what I'm trying to get us to is a point to make this motion passable, because even support that we may think we don't have it. Director Williams just mentioned that in order to go this route, we need to have an RFP, and the RFP needs to spell out what we want to do. The motion doesn't spell that out. And let's just make it clear here. We've heard from multiple commissioners that this is not something that we're opposed to. We just want to make sure that whatever we vote for, that we do it in a responsible manner. And the only thing that I'm suggesting is that we spell out the scope for the audit. What are we looking for, so that we can then translate that into some type of RFP. But I'll back off. You said you tried to call me. I'll back off. All right, Mr. Mayor, I'm just going to vote the way I vote.
Thank you so much. Chair recognizes Commissioner from the 8th.
Call for the question.
All right. Glad to hear that.
I still have one or two questions.
All right. Wait 1 second. Let me chime in with the attorney first. The attorney has put his hand up. Attorney Brown. You need to turn your mic on.
Sir, thank you. If this motion is to be voted on, I'm advising you that the word local in the first line must be or needs to be removed.
All right. Thank you, Attorney Brown. Commissioner from the 3rd, is that a term you want to remove and have your motion restated?
We can remove that.
Madam Clerk, can you remove local, please?
Anything else we want to add or remove while we're at it?
All right. All right, we don't want to open that door. Commissioner from the 5th, you're up, sir.
The scope.
Yeah, I'm just a little. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that, dude. Don't do that. Don't even do that. I think she said something about annually, and then we said something about every 4 years. So when are we talking about doing these audits? And when would the first one be done? Would it be 4 years from now? Next year? What?
Tomorrow? ASAP. I mean, no.
Let me chime in. Commissioner, questions may call it. It would be my interpretation that once they put out an RFP, at some point we will devise a strategy as to when this is done. I don't think it'll happen tomorrow.
I want that today. And Commissioner Garrett is out of order, sir. So I know you wouldn't know that, but he's out of order. If you want it, you out of order.
Commissioner from the 5th.
Nobody said anything to you. You out of order.
Commissioner from the 5th.
I asked if it would be a year or 4 years from now. And I don't know where this dude's coming from because I hadn't said anything to him. He's out of order. Just because you called for the question, that doesn't mean that the questioning is over.
Commissioner from the 5th.
No, it doesn't. It does not.
Commissioner from the 5th.
I want to know if you want to do it yearly or every 4 years or what, because it's not spelled out clearly in the motion.
Commissioner from the 5th.
Look, I'm asking a question, so you need to translate that to the 3rd.
Madam Clerk, there's been a call for the question.
Excuse me, sir.
Can you restate the motion, please?
I asked the question, sir.
Can you restate the
I asked the question.
motion,
You're out of
please?
order, Mr. Mayor. I asked the question. Is it a yearly or is it every 4 years? That's all I asked. Because you're going to call for a question, that doesn't mean anything.
Is the motion the one on the screen?
Minus the words that I've removed. And yes, an annual is done yearly, the annual external. We would do this every 4 years.
But you said every 4 years also, so I'm trying to figure out, is it going to be done every year or every 4 years? And then we're talking about money.
It says minimum of once every 4 years for every department.
Okay, but then you're saying annually.
Well, we already have an annual. Is this, can Ms. Williams knows?
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Attorney Brown.
I'm going to vote the way I vote.
Attorney Brown, get us back in order, please.
He doesn't have to get us back in order. You need to run things the way they need to be run.
Attorney Brown.
As to the call for the question, if there is no, a call for the question means a request to end debate. In the event that there are members of the body who do not want to end debate, then the body has to vote on whether it wants to end debate. A call for the question is only automatic when there is no objections. So at this point, if the debate, if any members of the body wish to continue to debate, then the next procedure would be to have a vote on whether you want to end the debate. If the vote gets 6 votes, the debate is ended. If the motion does not get 6 votes, the debate may continue.
Madam Clerk, there's been a call for the question. Can we vote to end debate?
It's so crazy.
All right. You ready? You ready for the vote, Madam Clerk?
Why are we limiting conversation?
Yes, sir.
All right,
and
vote.
this vote is to end debate.
Yeah, that's correct. Voting.
End conversation. How are we going to get anywhere?
That motion carries 8-2. With Mr. Mason and Mr. Jordan Johnson voting no.
All right. So, Attorney Brown.
Yes, sir. Now the proper procedure would be to ask, is there a motion as to this item?
That's right. There's already been a motion to proper second. I noticed it was seconded by Commissioner Brandon Garrett. The motion was entered by
Ms. McKnight.
Ms. McKnight.
Okay.
So can you reread the motion, please?
Okay. The motion is to hire a third-party accounting firm, separate and independent from the internal auditor, who performs financial statement audits on an annual basis, to perform regularly scheduled operational audits on all city departments, ensuring every department is audited at a minimum of once every 4 years. Said firm will present findings quarterly to the full commission.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Voting. That's it. Wasted up a while on that.
That motion carries 8-1-1 with Mr. Johnson voting no and Mr. Bobby Williams abstaining.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Does that conclude our business for today?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. This meeting is hereby adjourned. Thank you, guys, and my apologies for being a part of this. Have a great day.